So good morning once again. My name is Reverend Angela Denton, for those of you who might be joining us for the very first time, and I welcome you. And I also would like to wish one and all a happy new year. Some of you may not be experiencing that firework experience of joy, but right where you are, just know that you are loved and that in every moment you embrace the fullness of your humanity and your divinity. And so before I start a new series after next year's cleansing ceremony or release ceremony that we will do, I thought I'd do something a little bit more playful, more lighthearted, although for some individuals it might challenge some of your thinking a little bit. So I would like to start off with just sharing about common platitudes, euphemisms, idioms, phrases, cliches that are a big part of our everyday communication. And some of them that are on the screen you may be familiar with, some may be new. So here are some of them. I better get on the horse, meaning it's time to leave. I personally have not heard of that one. I've heard it's time to get back on the horse, meaning if I'm afraid, something has happened and I have stopped doing something out of fear that, to pick myself up, dust myself off and try again. But I've never heard of I better get on my horse. Most common, we've heard break a leg for those people who are performers, actors, singers, actresses. It's a wish, to have a successful performance, to really rock it, and to dig in after. I think a lot of us, well, at least say for myself, I've been indulging a little bit over the last 2 weeks or so. And so I've been digging in on some traditional foods and loving it. And then there's the phrase, bite your tongue. When there's somebody you think is about to say something and it might not be the highest or the kindest thing, or you might say to yourself, let me bite my tongue, keep quiet. So I'm going to share 2 more pairs, but they're going to be in picture form. Okay. So the first pair that I'm going to share, I'm going to invite someone to name what those platitudes, cliches are, and put both of them together in the chat. And for each pair, there's only going to be the 2 more. The first person who gets it right, you get an Amazon $15 gift card. So if you'd like to play, great. And I know so let's see. Who thinks they know what these two separate ones, but what these are? What common idioms, sayings, platitudes, cliches do these represent? And if you don't know how to do the chat, you can do the reactions, raise your hand. All right, I see a taker. Hold on, let me scroll down. Left is over the hill, good. And Matt, do you know what the second one is?
I'm trying to figure that one out. I'm not sure on that one.
All right, so he's a little thin on top. Right, is a euphemism to say that somebody is balding, but nevertheless, so you may be still one of our winners today. Thanks, and I promise I didn't fix it. He didn't see this ahead of time.
It's true, I didn't see it.
The next pair, anybody want to take a try at these 2? Gail Hammond, go for it.
When one door closes, another one opens.
Yes. How about the one on the right?
That one has me still.
Okay. I'll give you a clue. They're all doing what? Look at the guy with the watch.
Waiting.
Yep.
They're all waiting.
All right.
That's what we do, is we wait.
We wait. It's okay. Has anybody ever heard of, wait, I see somebody, hold on. I don't have time for this. That's a good one. Who else has their hand up? Matt, can you help manage that? Let's see. Waiting impatiently. Let's see. Time waits for no one. I like all of these. Okay, what it is though, is good things come to those
Who wait?
who wait. Yes. So I thank you all for trying. And anybody who put something in the chat, Matt, if you can write down the names, I'm going to put everybody in for a drawing. So thank you for participating and having a little fun this morning. Well, not only has everyday mainstream communication been filled with euphemism, idioms, phrases, sayings, so on and so on, but common phrases, cliches, and idioms, so on, platitudes have made their way into religious and spiritual communities, as well as support groups. So this morning, what we're going to do is look at two of those. I was hoping to do more this morning, but as I started to get into it, I didn't think we would have time for more than these two that I'm going to share, but maybe throughout the year we can go over more. But Reverend Paul Hasselbeck and Reverend Bill Holton co-authored, they are Unity ministers and authors, teachers. They've co-authored two books, Get Over It and Get Over It Too. And what they did in these books was to look at commonly used phrases, cliches, sayings within New Thought community to see how they actually measured up. Did they really represent spiritual truth as taught by co-founders Myrtle and Charles Fillmore, and even other New Thought teachers like Ernest Holmes? And so the two that I would like to go over this morning is, it is what it is. I say that a lot. I actually heard it spoken this morning. Yesterday, we had just my son, his girlfriend, my other son, my mom, me, and Matt, but I can't tell you how many times I heard it said yesterday, it is what it is. And then the other one we're going to look at is, I am in the flow, I'm not in the flow. So here we go. For each one of these expressions, I'm going to share the assumption that is made by the saying, and it is one that we hold assumptions we hold consciously, and then there are some assumptions or beliefs that we hold subconsciously, that we don't really know that they're active within us. And the clearer we become in knowing what we are really operating consciously and unconsciously with, the more empowered we are. And then I'm going to share the truth that they shared to see if the saying actually supports spiritual truth or not. And then in their book, they also offered a rewrite, which I call a reframe. And so I will share those rewrites that were offered in the book. But I also invite you to do your own rewrite to see how that expression can be said in another word that resonates maybe for you. So let's start with, it is what it is, right? So yes, when we say it is what it is saying that something that is happening physically is a fact, that there's a factual situation. And so no worries there, that's true. But what happens is we really don't reveal the meaning that we have attached to what is. And there are also other assumptions that either we can know consciously or unconsciously. And some of those assumptions in interviewing people that Paul and Bill had done is that the saying that everything is happening as it is supposed to be. Well, who deems it's supposed to be? Is it you? Is it fate? Is it something else? The other assumption commonly attached to the saying is, well, oh, well, might as well get used to it just the way it is. Maybe you don't use those words, but just notice it next time. You know, what is it that's happening when you say what is what it is? And if we're like, oh, well, it is what it is, yes, we may be sometimes powerless over certain things in our lives, but in a moment, we're going to look at the truth. Are we really powerless? And what do we actually have power over? So yeah, indulge in the saying, but then what do we do? What's the next step? Where do we go from there? Because we never want to abdicate our personal power. That's why it was so important for me to have everybody claim, I am that I am that I am. Yes, we honor the allness, the power, the mysterious presence of all that is, the pure potentiality, God, what creator, whatever name it is. But so often we abdicate our power saying, well, it's not me, it was God, or whatever spirit wants, whatever this. Okay, there is something greater, but we were wired. Jesus taught these things and more you can do. So every time we abdicate our power, we are not claiming our own divinity. So I'm really passionate about that, as you can tell. So we move on to, so what is the truth? Are we really powerless? Are we truly powerless? So yeah, there are some things that we are powerless over, right? The choices that people make, the actions that people take, right? Our family members, that's one of the things in a 12-step power where, you know, I am powerless over people, places, right? However, that's not the end of the story. Yes, we are powerless over the actions, the words, the choices that others make. We do know we are influencers, that our words can matter. Why do we pray with one another? Why do we hold people and speak those words aloud? Because we know that the vibration of what we're holding for another does have the power to influence or create a healing vibration. But ultimately, it's up to an individual to decide what they will hold in consciousness and what they will do. We also know that we live in a physical reality and we deal with impermanence, right? Tornadoes happen, wildfires happen, the pandemic occurs, our flights are canceled, so on and so on, so on. So part of that living in physical reality, we know that change is inevitable. However, again, what are we powerful over, right? And then I would even dare to say, okay, impermanence, tornadoes, wildfires, on some level, or what we are doing with how we're treating our environment with global warming. Are we going to just say, oh, it is what it is? Or can we have the power to do something to make a change? So what I want to say is, yes, things happen, right? That we are powerless over, how people show up in our lives, what they do. Yes, a storm may ruin, you know, a picnic in the summer. But in each and every moment, we are to claim how powerful we are. Yes, embrace your humanness. Whatever the event that you are experiencing, recognize how you're feeling, embrace it, and then say, okay, what do I have power over? Because our power of dominion or our power means I get to choose what I am going to make something mean, what choices I'm going to make, the beliefs and behavior. And Joe, again, going back to Joe's example, he powerfully demonstrated that. He was really annoyed about what was happening, how he was being treated with the doctor's office, and he chose again, right? And whatever is in our life, is affected by what we call it. We may not consciously say it out loud. We may not. And what we energize in consciousness has the power to outpicture in our lives. And so here is the rewrite. The first one is what they share in their book. It is what I call it, or name it. And I just added this. It is what I believe it is. So this is the invite to go further when you find yourself saying, it is what it is, to go deeper. Okay, so what am I calling it? What am I naming it? What a meaning am I attaching to this? To know thyself. So we look at name it. What do I call it? What is the fact? What is the belief? What is the feeling? What do I have power over? What do I not, possibly? And what choices and actions can I take? So a very simple, non-consequential, really thing. I found myself, as I get ready to do a talk, I always have the experience of it. I couldn't believe how many times I say, it is what it is. And a very simple, again, not a serious thing that happened. It was, I think, on Thursday or Friday. I was getting ready to roast cauliflower, and I just wanted to put a drop of avocado oil. And as I held the bottle of avocado oil, lo and behold, a whole bunch poured out. I mean, it didn't flood the whole pan, but in an instant, it is what it is. I even said it out loud. Again, not a serious situation, but I recognized an abdication of like, oh, well. And so in that moment, again, I said, all right, so I poured more oil than I wanted. And the belief was that I ruined the dish and I was disappointed, which was my feeling. And so what choices did I have? What power did I have? Well, I had other vegetables. So I poured more vegetables, got a bigger pan and roasted them. So simple one, but now I'm going to share one that might have a more serious implication in our lives, okay? And I've heard this. So someone gets fired and they say, it is what it is. So what I would invite you to do is to go through this process. What's the fact? Okay, I was fired from my job. So what belief are you holding about that? Do you believe you had bad luck? Do you believe that your boss doesn't like you? Is it the market isn't good? Is it because you believe you have a learning disability and that learning disability is going to stop you and you will always lose a job? And then we get to go to, how are we feeling about the situation? Well, I've heard this from, it could be frustration, anger, hopelessness, and some people might feel relief and happiness because they really didn't like the job, and there it was, you didn't have it anymore, so there might have been a sense of relief or happiness, right? Then you ask yourself, what do I have power over in this moment? Well, I have power over what meaning I'm going to attach to this, what I'm feeling and choices. Am I going to abdicate my power? If I do find out, like this happened with my one son, Michael, who wound up getting his doctorate in physical therapy. He danced, he was diagnosed with a couple of learning disabilities, and he went through actually middle school and high school thinking like, okay, well, I don't really have much choices. It is what it is because I have this learning disability. And so in having many conversations and learning different things that he could do to help empower himself, strategies to learn, resources, support systems that he could get in place, he graduated. He graduated with high marks, and he's a successful physical therapist. So if he just stopped right there with that belief, he would not have claimed his dominion as to what he has power over, right? And then choices and actions, right? I lost my job. Do I need to go for more training? Do I need to get that support that I just spoke of? And so, my friends, when you find yourself saying it is what it is, I invite you to go through this to see what you are really holding on all levels in consciousness. So now we go to the next cliche or saying. Sometimes we can find ourselves saying, I'm in the flow, I am not in the flow. And Paul and Bill says this about those two. When we say I'm in the flow or I'm not in the flow, it implies that sometimes we're in the flow and sometimes we are not. When we are in the flow, life goes smoothly and miraculously. Synchronistic events occur. We get the parking lot spots. We win on the slot machine. We get the right job. We're at the right place and we meet the love of our life. And then when we're not in the flow, things don't go so smoothly. We seem to bump aimlessly along through life, confusing activity with accomplishment. And so what is the truth? So this is what is shared, right? Yes, life unfolds in cycles for all of us. We talk about that, right? The seasons of our lives, that there are endings, there's the in-between time where we're waiting, where we're letting go of our old beliefs and how we would show up. And then there's the new life, the new beginning. And sometimes when we're in those endings and in the in-between time, we may think that we're somehow not in the flow, right? But, and then also, let's say, you know, I lose my job and really angry. And yes, you embrace your humanity. But I'm in a bad mood every day and I'm taking it out on people. And I decide to hibernate under the covers for weeks on end, right? I'm not saying not to live with it, but so then what we are vibrating in, right? Our actions, our words, our behaviors have the power to create more of that. So that we may find ourselves attracting ourselves to other unfortunate events. However, if we really look at the truth that life does go in cycles, but here's the big truth. Can we ever be separate from Source, God, by whatever name you call it? Can we ever be separate? Is there ever a place that we're not in flow in the presence of the divine? And therefore, we are always in flow. And there's another meaning of what is implied by flow. And when we know that there's one power, one presence, and that all life emanates from the divine, from that flow, then we are the very expression, we are the flow, right? I am the flow. I am the flow. Say it to yourself. It's like, I am that I am. What am I flowing with? Which means, what am I holding in consciousness? Because it is the ripple effect of our lives. And we have the power to choose what that will be for ourselves. So again, it's asking us to go within. What am I consciously aware of what I'm holding? What am I maybe not so aware of? Am I being gentle with myself? And then after, because some of us can be really hard on ourselves. And then sometimes we can just say, you know, where we abdicate our power, oh, well, right? But when we know that we are the flow, just like the sun always exists. Today is a cloudy day. Well, at least it is for where I am here in Old Bridge, New Jersey. And I don't see the sun, but it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And when we are in the death phase, or those changes in our lives that are painful, when we're feeling dis-ease in a certain form, when I say, oh, it's a wonderful moment, we might not be having that experience in our consciousness. But just because the cloud doesn't exist, I mean, the sun is not, the clouds cover over the sun, it is sometimes our cloudy thinking, our fear, our doubt, all of that can cloud and make us believe the truth that we're not in the flow, that I'm not the flow, because look what's happening in my life. And so you always have the choice to ask, what do I want to flow in my life, instead of abdicating my power? And so, my friends, we know our words have power. Charles Fillmore and other wise mystical teachers said that self-awareness is the gateway to enlightenment, the gateway to illuminated consciousness. And many of the mystical masters talk about claiming your divinity and speaking those words of I am instead of those platitudes where you're just saying, oh, well, it's somewhere out there, I so on and so on. So as we look at these cliches and sayings that we say, it gives us an opportunity to pause. All right, what am I holding deeper inside after I say it? Because it can reveal some things that might be operating for us that we're not really conscious of. And in closing, the wise words of Charles Fillmore. Words are also seeds, and when dropped into the invisible spiritual substance, they grow, which is the flow, friends. It is the flow. They grow and bring forth after their kind. Words are seeds, and when dropped into the invisible spiritual substance, they grow and bring forth after their kind. And so, my friends, it is my desire each and every moment of this year to know how powerful you are. Name it, claim it, and live it. Namaste.
Thank you, Angela. And our affirmative prayer, I speak words that clearly and accurately proclaim spiritual truth. Powerful.